Hey, how's it going? This is John Wydogen with another episode of Natural Freedom League. We are at naturalfreedomleague.com. Here once again with my producer and co-host, Chill Will Keller. What's up, Will?
What's up, John? What's up,
Doing
viewers?
good. Doing good.
Another
Back again.
episode. Yeah, back again.
Here again with our buddy Jason Spears. He's got a website. His website is called universaltruthprevails.com. He's a researcher and a propagator of the great work. What's up, Jason?
How's it going, guys?
Good to have you back on, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, so we're going to do a conspiracy heresy part 3. And Jason is our go-to guy in terms of like historical references. He's got a lot of good documents and information and diagrams, and just I really appreciate all the information you come with, Jason. Makes it easier for me to kind of like work through all this stuff, because I know you sent me, what was that book you sent us, the 800-page book?
Which 800-page book?
You put it on Slack. I downloaded it. It was like, it covers like everything. You said just to read the table of contents. It's like,
what is it?
I was telling Suzanne.
Province. It's called the Divine Province.
Yeah, that's right.
The Divine Province?
Yeah, Province.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just reading the table of contents on that is just like so much information, but it is a book that's really well laid out historically and looks to be well sourced and kind of ties things together,
That's the grammar stage, right? You got to dive into just an eclectic array of information so you can kind of put the pieces together. So
I feel like with dense books like that, a lot of the conspiracy books where conspirators get a lot of their information, I don't think they're all meant to be read like from cover to cover. I have a book like that, like the Divine Province. I think it is 800 something pages, but I do exactly that. I look up to flip it open to the table of contents, find things that pique my interest, and then I go search for it. And then with other things, like let's say for example, Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope.
Oh man, good one.
Books like that, I would never even like think like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and read this cover to cover. Maybe there's people that can do that, and I would be envious of those people. But no, with stuff like that, I would research like, where's the good stuff? Go online, research what chapters, what pages is the incriminating stuff, is the good stuff, and read it that way. That way, it's a little less. I don't want people to get the wrong idea, like, oh wow, you read an 800-page book cover to cover. Like, no, definitely not. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, one holds you the whole way, But yeah. So what brings us here today is this topic of the alien invasion or disclosure. It's been in the news a little bit lately. And, I think we all here have gone that next step in terms of thinking about this, at least on some level, that like there is the scenario of a fake alien invasion. So have you heard, Jason, about the recent, how there's something came out where they have to release information in the next 90 days?
I heard something about that. I mean, the Q people have been talking about that for a while now, that Trump's supposed to disclose everything. And apparently there was today or maybe yesterday, like a huge file dump. Is that what you...
I mean, so a friend of mine...
Was it a huge...
There was that
I think
too.
It was, yeah.
That was one of them.
WikiLeaks dumped everything, but then there was the CIA unexpectedly makes Black Vault UFO files available for downloads. This happened today.
Yeah, exactly. So someone sent me something last night about it, a link that it was somehow it was attached to the COVID relief bill.
Yeah.
That within 90 days they had to release a certain amount of documents about it. So we already have them with bringing out disclosure. So what are your thoughts on that?
Priming us, man, getting us ready, putting that information in the subconscious, or the collective conscious. Just, I think it was this month as well, a big article, looking at the headline. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. A galactic federation has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. And I keep seeing stories like that, whether it's like military generals, or this one was Israeli security chief.
What source is that?
That's NBC. That article printed like everywhere, AP, Reuters. I'm trying to find the date.
Yeah.
December 8th. So yeah, like a month or so ago.
I find it funny that people who don't believe in conspiracies, when this stuff comes out, they think they believe this. So it's like, so what you're telling me is you believe there's been a conspiracy to hide this information, right? It's like, now it's okay to be a conspiracy theorist because CNN said so.
Yeah.
This last year has been a real trip. I myself took, I don't know how many years off from being a conspiracy theorist. And then like last year happened, January, February. Was it February when we started hearing about Corona? And then March when it was like official and things started shutting down. And there was like a week where I feel stupid for even like being in that space, that headspace. But there was like a week in the beginning of March last year where I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear gloves if I go to the grocery store. Like there's this invisible boogeyman out there. Like I should be afraid. And then that lasted like maybe a week. And then I was looking around like, oh, these people are stupid. What's wrong with them? I bought it for a minute. And then after that, it just seemed like it started to become cool almost to be a conspiracy theorist. Like when I started looking at everything and reading about all this stuff, 2007, 2008 and onwards, like it wasn't cool. I was completely ostracized. Nobody wanted to talk to me, lost a lot of friends. But yeah, and now it's, you can't go on social media without seeing some form of conspiracy or just people like dropping esoteric information that a few years ago wasn't as available. And maybe that's a lot to do with the internet and like the timing right now. I think peak internet is like, I think we might have reached peak internet or past it, because now we're like, we reached that point, right? And now we're hitting all the censorship. So like all that information is going to start, the availability of it is going to start being less and less.
Exactly, dude. That's a great point. I think you're right. Yeah, I have a few friends that now they contact me. They used to think I was crazy, but they contact me and get my thoughts on things. So it's interesting, and plus, consciousness is going through a stage, right? We're in a new era. So I think consciousness is getting new energies. It's getting almost uplifted or more intense. But that, it's still getting manipulated. So I think more people are open to the idea of conspiracies, but yet they haven't done the internal work. So they're just getting played.
Yeah. So I had this weird thought just now. So obviously what's Operation Bluebeam, first of all? Isn't that what it's called? No, Project Bluebeam?
Project Bluebeam, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that for a minute and kind of clarify some things, because that's, I think, something that's kind of misinformation going around the conspiracy circles. There is no actual Project Bluebeam per se. Like there's no CIA document, there's no NASA file, although that's what the claim is. Project Bluebeam, or the terminology, the wordage Bluebeam, all comes from, it's funny because it's an actual conspiracy theory. We talk about all these things and they're conspiracies, you know, they're not theories, they're happening, they're conspiracies. People have like admitted that they're doing it. But with Project Bluebeam, this is an actual conspiracy theory because it all comes from one guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Serge Monast. He was a Canadian journalist in the 80s and 90s. Supposedly the character in the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, supposedly that character is based off this guy.
What was his name?
Monast.
Serge
Monast. SERGEMONAST.
Okay.
So in 1994, I think it was first a talk. He released as a talk, and then he wrote a book called Project Bluebeam by Serge Monast. And it was that document, the book that Serge wrote, that is the source of everything Bluebeam. In that book, he lays out a 4-step plan. I don't know, I've never actually read the book, so I don't know it'd be interesting to see what sources, if any, are cited for that information. But Bluebeam, what it actually is from the author, is a 4-part plan, where the first part is that they would, the perpetrators, by the way, are NASA and the UN, and their 4-part plan is to install a world religion, world government, destroy nationality and individualism. And he laid out a 4-part plan. The first part was using weather manipulation and weather modification to expose artifacts that would destroy people's understanding of religion. I guess the idea being that they would produce earthquakes here and there, or maybe, you know, melt some ice in Antarctica or something that would expose some artifacts that would completely negate the history that we've learned to be true. So that's the first part. And keep in mind that this is all geared towards, I guess it's like trauma-based mind control. Is that they're trying to break us so that they can sell us this new religion, which of course is based around Luciferianism or Satanism. So yeah, it's really like trying to break down. They want to destroy Christianity, really. That's like the target. Get rid of Jesus, get rid of Christ consciousness, and everything that goes along with that religion. So anyway, that's the first part, to help get that notion going, that everything you've been taught about religion is wrong, and maybe we actually come from aliens. Right. And then the second part is the part that most people are familiar with, and this is what he calls the space show. And this is NASA using satellites and laser beams to create holographic images that would represent sort of like a second coming event. And he says that it would appear simultaneously all across the world, depending on where you are in the world would determine what image you're seeing. So he's saying that basically, like in the United States, we'd see like the coming of Christ, and in other places they'd see Buddha or whatever their religious idol is, and we would see this all being projected into the sky, the whole world at the same time, and that's supposed to help further break down our religious beliefs. And he goes into great detail about like how that's supposed to happen, and this whole big plan about like how all the different deities during this I don't know what you'd call it, conjuring, all these different deities would come into one, and that one would be Lucifer or Satan. I don't think we would know that at the time. It's like thinking about it now, it's like the plan is basically to try and recreate Revelations like here on Earth. And I think from other things I've read and that you guys are probably familiar with, it kind of goes along with their plan. They're trying to recreate the emergence of the Antichrist and have the what was it, tribulation and rapture.
Yeah.
And then he goes on, there's two more parts. The third part is mind control, telepathic mind control. Now the NASA and UN are trying to convince people with, if they weren't already convinced, they're being bombarded with thought control and basically voices to further drive people crazy, I guess. I don't know. And then the fourth part is the alien attack, is the real alien attack, but I guess it wouldn't be real. It's, he talks about it as all perceived, that we're going to be bombarded with thoughts that we're under attack. He doesn't actually say that there's going to be an alien attack, but he talks about being bombarded with thoughts to get people, it's almost like what they do all the time, get us afraid of an invisible boogeyman.
I was about to say, yeah, it sounds like Corona.
Exactly. Yeah. So get everyone afraid of a fake alien invasion that's constantly about to happen. Everyone's supposed to be afraid that the rapture is about to happen. And then once everyone's in this state of being where everyone is simultaneously like super low vibration, living in fear, that's when they would use, he talks about fiber optics and cables, and basically everything that's plugged into electronics or technology would be used as a conduit to release the supernatural demonic forces that reside in the ether that are just burst into manifest in our earthly realm.
And this is all from that guy's book?
This is all from Serge Monast, yeah, his Project Bluebeam book. And yeah, it's kind of crazy because, like I said, I don't know the sources that he cites, but if you like go through all his points and read it, it's like totally coincides with everything the UN has said, everything all these roundtable groups have said, the World Economic Forum. Like he's, and this was in '94, right? So he's talking about all this stuff in 1994, like supposedly before these technologies existed. Some of them we have now, right?
Yeah. 5G getting situated and all that. Yeah, definitely. Fascinating.
Yeah. And he talks a lot too about keeping people distracted so they can implement the next phase. And it's like with Corona and the elections and BLM and Antifa and all the stuff that's gone on over the last year. It's like there has, sports has been gone, but there's been no lack of distraction because everyone's totally tied up with all this other stuff. And meanwhile, like what's actually happening? What are they implementing? It's like 5G's, like you just said, 5G's popping up everywhere. There's all this weird underground construction work. Like I just like walk around the neighborhood or drive around San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. Drive around the city and you can see when we were supposed to be shut down, when there were supposed shutdowns. You take a look to see what's still operating, like who's unaffected by this. And there's a lot of weird like telecommunication stuff going on. I mean, I guess it seems like a prime time to do that because there's less traffic, less people around, but it seems a little suspicious.
That's why this is a good episode, a good conversation to have, because whatever's going on in the mainstream, in the majority of society, there's some shit cracking off in the back door, right? The government saying, here, focus on this. They're pulling a fast one in the background. So yeah, it's good to contemplate this type of information and just have a discussion and talk about it, because like that information came from 1994, and like you said, there's a lot of shit that's going on today that coincides with that.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you don't know any other source of that? There's no like government document or anything like that that talks about Project Bluebeam? It all originates from that book.
My understanding is that yes, that project, the word blue beam and the verbiage and the term blue beam all originates from this guy, this journalist, this conspiracy theorist, Serge.
What happened in Venezuela years ago where they used holographic technology and they put Jesus in the sky? Do you remember, any of you guys remember hearing about that?
I remember hearing something about that. I don't know the
It was
details.
like, and then like probably just a short amount of months later, Tupac performed on stage when he
Mm,
was doing the
Mm.
hologram. So, and that's like the only time I've heard about that type of technology.
And had they admitted to doing it?
Well, I don't know who it was from or if the government was omitting anything. It was just, I don't even know the company, but I know it happened.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's your admission right there that a company was paid to do it. We've got like a bunch of I don't know what you'd call it, kind of like admissions like that in the form of a company admitting that they got paid or contracted to do something. I remember reading an article over 10 years ago, and it was, I forgot who the company was, but it was a company that was hired in England to spray chemtrails, to cloud seed, to ensure that it wasn't going to rain over a Paul McCartney concert. And it was, the article was about how Paul McCartney himself like paid to have this company ensure that it was going to be a sunny day on his concert. And that was over a decade ago. So it's like, can't
yeah,
really deny that they're manipulating the weather. Paul McCartney is doing it, by
for
himself
sure.
for his own reasons.
Oh,
Yeah.
Paul.
So, some other sources that are good to look into with this topic is Bill Cooper. He was in the Navy, and he saw a, a, a a craft come out of the water. They were in a submarine. He saw it come out of the water and then like do all this crazy stuff. And then he got, they talked to him and they said, you know, they basically said, so what did you see? And then he tells them what he saw. And then they're like totally yell at him. And then they ask him again, what'd you see? And he's like, I didn't see anything. And then he got, from there, he went into naval intelligence, and then he would talk about how he would get all these documents coming across his desk, and they were all about UFO sightings and different events like that. And he started realizing that they were fake. Like it was all like misinformation. It was, he started believing that, that wasn't real. And then that's what switched his research into more of the occult and to more what the ruling class is up to. And then that's when his work kind of switched to that. And then another author, Annie Jacobson, she has a book called Area 51, which is all based on FOIA requests. And Area 51 covers just basically what went on at Area 51. And at the ending of it, spoiler alert, she talks to this guy who was in the program, and he says that the Roswell crash, it was a craft that one of the Project Paperclip scientists have made, but the Russian version of Project Paperclip. So there was a theory, there was two brothers that were Nazis. They had a design for a flying saucer, and that Russia took them, US took a bunch of Nazi scientists, they built NASA, right? And that the Russians realized after the War of the Worlds, the radio event, where it caused some panic in the American public because they heard on the radio that they were under attack by aliens and people believed it was real, right? So the Russians saw that and they built this saucer, and that they crashed it into Roswell, and that the beings inside were actually like um, deformed and tortured children, like
Experiments.
12 or 13-year-old like Mengele experiments. And that when they found the craft, it had like Russian writing on the inside of it and stuff like that. So it was almost like the beginning of the Cold War. basically, where we, basically we were like spying on each other. That's really what Area 51 was. Like, it was the US creating all these different technologies and like planes that could fly at really high heights, and planes that could deflect radar, right? It was like all that technology was invented at Area 51. And it was, Russia would fly over us and spy on us, and we would fly over them. And so it was this, goal to just, build these, planes that could just do amazing things. So the book ends up that there really was no proof of like actual aliens, that it was all, human technology. So I mean, and again, I mean, where they got that from, I mean, there's some theories that the Nazi scientists like channeled that stuff, or they had the Thule Society channel a lot of that technology. So technically you could say it is off-world technology, but according to Annie Jacobson's work, she does Area 51, then she does Project Paperclip, then she does the Pentagon's Brain, which is DARPA. So, all connected, and it's really good. I really recommend those books. They're very well, it's all FOIA requests and interviews that she does. She's a good journalist. So anyway, that's, so it's interesting, like that angle of it, where you're I mean, I don't have, I don't have any reason to believe there's not life on other planets, but it does seem like the whole concept of space and NASA is questionable, what they can actually do, what they're actually doing up there, how high they can actually go.
Yeah, yeah. I think part of the whole um, fake part of the fake alien invasion is that they want us to again have like an invisible boogeyman, something that you can always be afraid of, that the threat is never called off, the threat is always there. And I think they get that by saying that there's beings from other planets off the world that are threatening us. But evidence and research shows that the aliens, or what they would call off-world aliens, are here, are human creations, human technology. You guys remember Dolly the sheep?
Mhm. Yeah.
Was that like 1995 or something?
Yeah.
Was that like the last
They
story we ever heard about cloning? They
Yeah.
successfully cloned a sheep and it lived. Oh, nothing to see here. We're done cloning. Like, experiment was successful. We're never doing anything in that
Right.
regards again.
they put that shit in my yearbook when I was younger. That's so funny. Yeah. Nothing. Nothing
Right.
after that.
So, needless to say, I'm sure those experiments have continued underground. There's lots of documents suggesting that that's the case, and lots of movies, lots of predictive programming, androids, and transhuman um, bots. I don't know. I think of something that comes to mind is what was the droid's name in Alien? Ripley's friend. That
Yeah.
guy he looked human, act human, had like consciousness, but he was a robot. Like, when he gets ripped apart by the aliens, his blood is basically like hydraulic fluid.
Yeah.
um I don't know. A good rule of thumb is that any technology we have available to us, like, take that and advance it 50 plus years, and that's what the military has, that's what NASA has, that's what these secret programs are employing.
Shit. At
um,
least 50 years now. I mean, I
yeah,
would I would have said 50 years like in the 90s.
yeah,
I mean, who knows what it is now? I mean, it it's not that hard to believe that the military has these black ops, and they go underground to do these tests and develop weapons, for defense or whatever. So yeah, they're way far in advance.
and
Even
imagine,
Go on.
imagine all the money that has been funneled into, people toss around the word or the term secret space program. And then people be like, well, where would they get all the money to do tests on other planets and, maybe this is a jump, but running human trafficking, off-world human trafficking, like where would they have the money to do all that? Well, there's a ton of instances where the Pentagon and the DoD has misplaced trillions of dollars.
Exactly.
I know you guys remember Donald Rumsfeld the day before 9/11, right?
Yeah.
$2.3 trillion unaccounted for, nothing to see here. Never heard about that story.
Never, exactly. You never hear shit about that. So, and yeah, I mean, there's money there for sure. Getting that deep into, a secret government, I mean, money might not even be an option. I mean, they're printing that shit anyways. So,
Right.
it's just
Yeah, there's another thing that I thought of early on. We were talking about how the idea of them using a fake alien invasion and then telling humanity that like these beings have been here, right? They've been controlling us. This is your God, like you were saying, right? And it almost like it's a perfect plan for them to act like all of the horrible things they've done, they had to do to protect us from this threat, right? Like, because I used to think about that back in the day when, I think this is like during the George W. Years, that I was thinking that, well, what if there's a reason they're doing it that's for good, right? Like, what if the push for war and more wealth is like they have to build these weapons because they know the aliens are coming back, right? And this kind of gets a little more into like maybe the 12th planet Zechariah Sitchin stuff, right? Where we were put here by some type of being, or we were at least our DNA was messed with, and we were created here by some alien being that left, but that it's coming back, right? Its planet is coming back eventually. So I had that thought back then. I think I had probably read the 12th planet at that time and thinking, well, what if there's they have good intentions, there's something that we don't know and they're trying to protect us, and I think it's the perfect excuse for them for all the things they've done. And another aspect of that is there potentially some deal between a certain aspect of humans and some off-world extraterrestrial being, right? And they hold them back and they maintain their kingdom here, right, over us, ruling over us. But I don't know, it's a lot of different things. But
yeah, according to that recent article, Israeli intelligence, they say that there's a quote unquote galactic federation, and that they're working with governments all around the world to, and this is like the funny part, is like they're working with the galactic federation to make sure the timing of the alien disclosure is right. That's their whole premise. Like that's why we still haven't heard about the aliens, because it's not the right time.
Right.
And people who would claim to not be conspiracy theorists are sitting here reading this. You said it was NBC that posted this story? Like,
yeah, it was like every news outlet.
Yeah, it's definitely been in the mainstream news more often, the alien stuff, and more sightings, and that article right there. So and like you said, it's just one distraction after another, right? It's almost misdirection, because it's distracting you from what's really going on, is that we're enslaved by psychopaths and we're enslaving ourselves. But it just doesn't skip a beat with the distractions. It's crazy.
Yeah,
so who knows where it'll go.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've been saying is the upside. It's like there's no shortage of excitement. Like, yeah, things are crazy. Like, future's up in the air. Like, nobody knows what they're going to be doing in the near future, let alone the far future.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But but at least it's exciting, you know, like we signed up to be on this planet for this time, to have this human experience. And I mean, I guess there wasn't really a dull time in history. Like if you think about the expanse of history, there was never really, it was always like an exciting time, but
Yeah.
a lot of firsts for humanity, I think, this go around. And it'll be really interesting to see where it all goes. And
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think the, what were you calling them, John? The predator class. That's a good
Yeah, it's a good
Mhm.
name.
for 'em. I think the predator class, you were saying like, oh, you were trying to contemplate, see if maybe they have good intentions, right? And it's like that's the devil's advocate. Well, could they be
Mhm.
doing this for a good reason? And I doubt that the powers that be, have good intentions, but I do think they do what they do for a reason outside of their control. And I think that reason is the same reason that everything exists, right? Like dark and light have to exist simultaneously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to. I mean, what's the argument? You wouldn't be able to tell one from the other. You can't know darkness without light. So it's like we need these elite people to show us the direction that we don't want to go. Like, look, this could be your future. You can go this way. This is an option, because that's the whole shtick, right? We were given free will as an experiment. Give these beings free will, dominion over the planet, right? We have dominion over Earth. Earth was given to us, we the people, to take care of. Like that's what it says in Genesis. Actually uses the word dominion, which is funny because the voting machine company, their name
Yeah.
Dominion, like they have dominion over the
Mhm.
United States or whoever buys their voting machines. But in reality, we the people, we were put in charge of this planet. And I forgot where I was going with that, but you can kind of tie that in with Nibiru, or the 12th planet coming around, like these alien beings coming back around to check on their experiment every 3,000 or 20,000, 26,000, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some type of cycles, whether it be a dark time for consciousness, for humanity, and then there's the golden age, and then it comes back around, and that cycle continues to to keep this somewhat balance of light and dark. I think that's what the Kali Yugas pretty much explain, the ages. So we shall see. Grab the
Yeah.
popcorn.
I
Yeah.
was another theory, another extension of where I was going with the 12th planet and the idea that there were aliens, that came here. We thought there are gods, basically, right? And then they mixed with us, and then they left, and that they're coming back, right? Well, I also have had the thought that what maybe the technology was already advanced even back then, right? And so all those ancient things we're seeing is there was already some type of event that threw people back into the dark ages or something, but there was like a group that kept the technology, and that they almost could have, when the Sumerians are talking about flying machines and this, maybe it was just a being that was here already. Maybe it wasn't something that came from outer space or whatever. Yes, they had flying machines, right? But maybe who knows, maybe they live in a cave somewhere, or they live underground somewhere, and they come out with their technology. I mean, according to Bill Cooper, he saw it come out of the water, right? So, there's that concept too, that like, it's of this planet. We just don't see it, or it maybe underground or underwater or something like that. But I don't know, interesting little angle on it.
Yeah, that coincides with Admiral Byrd and that whole rabbit hole.
Right.
That whole rabbit hole. His whole thing, hole again, is the holes on the north and south poles. Is that you can get to the inner Earth, and that's where the aliens are, or the leftover Atlanteans or Lemurians, whoever
Mhm.
they are, that they reside in the inner Earth. But then I was reading a theory on that recently, that the inner Earth is just like, there's not an actual inner Earth. It's a portal to another dimension, which makes me think about like, how do we get to other dimensions? Well, you go within your body, right? You go within your body and then you can expand outwards. So that almost makes like a ton of sense logically, that there would be a certain energy portal and you would go within that, but it would be within, and then from
Right.
you expand. I mean, when we throw around this word aliens, right? I don't think I actually picture beings from other planets. It seems to be kind of a general understanding around our circles that they're less from different planets and more from other planes or other dimensions, interdimensional beings.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
how I that's how I look at them too. It's fascinating diving into Michael Tessarion's work, Oracles and Origins. He just breaks down the the ancient story of the Atlanteans versus the Lumerians, and which was pre Sumeria,
Mhm.
and how that was just a completely different realm of civilization and advanced technology, and they had that big war which created a planetary catastrophe, and then that kind of jump started us into the next age. So it can go so many different routes. But yeah, I look at aliens more of interdimensional for sure. So
And it's so there was a video that came out, I don't know when it officially came out, but I saw it about 2 months ago, and it's a guy on YouTube, is Martin Pineal something.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a flat earth researcher. They created this model of the earth, right? And so it basically every 24,000 years it goes through this process of creation. So there's the tree in the middle, right? That's the North Pole. And then after 24,000 years, that's the first Garden of Eden. Then and that's Hyperborea, right?
Mhm.
And then it goes again, and then there's the second one, and then that's Lumeria, yeah. And then it goes another 24,000 years, then another one, that's Atlantis. And then goes another one, 24,000 years, another one, that's I forget what that one's called. Anyway, it's interesting, like it's the whole based around the whole toroidal thing, and it's but the land goes out like this, and
Yeah,
then
I've seen that model. That map is actually really compelling and fun to look at and imagine. That
it's interesting.
yeah,
I mean,
that
it's a
Atlantis and you, that they're still there, but they're just like on the outskirts. That gives
right,
credence to the whole ice wall theory.
right,
What's
and
beyond
that,
the ice wall?
yeah, and that there's certain times where the different planets are like all down, and it lowers the Van Allen belts. So that's why in the last few years we were seeing, like when Musk was trying to launch rockets out, we would see them hit or something happen in the sky where they would like break up or whatever was happening. I mean, they think that that's them hitting the firmament, right?
Yeah.
And that the Great Conjunction, at least that video was saying that the Great Conjunction was a time where the veil would be lowered and you would be able to go into those different realms. And there was a concern that the colonizers here were going to try to go to other realms and colonize them too. But it's interesting with the term extraterrestrial, right? Because from that model, it's just extra, right? It's extra land, right? Extraterrestrial, like instead of like extraterrestrial on a planet somewhere, extraterrestrial here, right? That we don't know of, right? So
good point. I like
just a
that.
thought, something to look into. I mean, keep an open mind. At some point, we're all trusting some source, right? Until you get in that rocket ship yourself and go for it.
Yeah, right.
But so why don't you tell us a little bit about your website? And I actually, unfortunately, haven't checked it out yet. I didn't realize you had it up till the other day, but
I've seen it. It's got a plethora of information on there, man.
It's called universaltruthprevails.com, and I need to do some more work on it, but as of now, it's kind of like a data dump of curated resources. Um, yeah, it's a bunch of information on there. I'll keep adding stuff to it. A lot of graphics, a lot of charts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, man. For sure.
What are your thoughts, or what do you want to do with it?
I don't know, man. It's a good question. I've been trying to purge myself from electronics. I was on Facebook and Instagram however many years ago, and then I got off, and I had so much pride that I was the only person that I knew that didn't have a Facebook or an Instagram. And I used to have a website too, way back when. So I just recently, last year, started getting back into that, started an Instagram, built the web page. I don't know what my objective is. I feel like I have a lot of information, like I've done a lot of work, like for over 10 years, I've kind of like spread out, read a little bit of everything, and just kind of come up with the common denominator, which is kind of how I research. I read a little bit of everything, figure out what are the commonalities between all of that, and then see what kind of truth I can derive from that. So I feel like I've done a lot of that, and it's kind of my duty to share that. But I don't know that I have like the results of my work are really intuitive, like if you just sift through all the information that I've gathered, it seems pretty self-explanatory as to what the big picture is, or what the real truth is. It's so hard these days, even though it's the age of information, right? There's so much, and maybe that's the problem, because there is so much information. A lot of it's misinformation, a lot of it's disinformation. Still don't know how you could be 100% sure that anything's true besides just trusting your intuition and using general discernment, which I feel like a lot of people are lacking these days. People don't know how to discern from right and wrong. They'll just do whatever's easiest, right? Like making a decision is hard. Discerning between things is hard. It's not easy to choose like what you're going to pursue, which direction you're going to go, what is right and what is wrong. So which leaves the easy option, which is to do nothing, to be apathetic and just accept whatever is told to you. And
Yeah,
gotta get out of that.
that's what AI stands for: appallingly ignorant. The masses.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
It's funny when people talk about AI. I've been noticing this. When they talk about AI, they're not saying like, "Oh, we're gonna give this thing intelligence." They always say that they're gonna. They talk about AI in the sense that AI is a thing. AI is a being, which kind of ties into what Serge Monast was saying about how they're going to use electronics to release the demons, right? And that's kind of like what CERN is trying to do, something like that, and open up a portal to invoke demons from these lower dimensions. All these tech companies are obsessed with this, like getting into these lower dimensions and bringing whatever's in those dimensions here. And I think that might tie into some of the fake alien invasion, that they're going to be like these demon spirits that they're trying to conjure up in the physical, and
they might be operating through devices.
Yeah, it's funny that you guys brought it up, because I was going to bring it up. That was the next question I was going to ask you was your thoughts on like AI. And so when we interviewed the Human Frequency, Sharon's take on it is that she talks about it in that way, like it's a being. And I compared it to Rudolf Steiner and the idea of Ahriman, right? Like Ahriman and Lucifer are actually two different beings. And Ahriman is kind of like the lower energies. Lucifer is actually a light energy, like a light spirit, right? And Ahriman is more like lower. And Ahriman like kind of takes up part of your body. And it's very similar, but it's interesting where, like I was saying, like what Will said, like that they're using the AI, they're using the technology to like operate and to control us. And that's why Sharon is against like using cell phones as much as you can, and that. So that's an interesting angle on it too.
Yeah, it's the vessel, right? Spirit's consciousness needs a vessel to inhabit, you know. So
Yeah.
technology, and I think eventually robots or androids, that's going to be the vessel. Whatever they're creating underground, humanoid, animal, robot crosses, whatever they got going on, whatever they're going to pass off as the aliens from other planets, that's what's going to be the vessel for these demonic energies to inhabit. I mean, I think these demonic energies are already inhabiting human vessels. That's why I think all the predator class, the ruling elite, I think they're all just like a bunch of empty vessels. Maybe they used to be human and they got compromised somehow. Maybe they made the literal deal with the devil and they sold their soul, and now they're just, you know, an empty shell that becomes a vessel for these low vibrational entities to inhabit. These low vibrational entities who are claiming that they're our true creators, our gods, but you know, they're not. They're imposters. I will say something about the AI to validate Sharon's thought. A year or so ago, I helped to put on a 5G conference. It was a conference talk about the dangers of 5G. And we got a couple scientists. They're actually like world renowned and have won all kinds of awards. And after the event happened, because I was like helping out and stuff, I got a chance to talk to one of them, this guy Harry, and he's kind of like the quintessential like crazy eclectic kind of scientist guy. Pretty fun to talk to. But I asked him, he's talking about 5G and how it would encompass the whole planet, and basically there wouldn't be any form of life unaffected by 5G. And this is after the conference. I went up to him, I was like, hey, so if the powers that be, or the people coming up with this plan to envelop the earth in 5G, if it affects everything on Earth, why would anything from Earth like go through with this plan? And I was hinting at, you know, like there's other beings or something, like the plan doesn't originate from Earth because it's not conducive to the health of Earth or its beings. And he kind of like, because all his questions and talk were all technical and stuff during the talk. So he kind of like lit up and his eyes got big and he's like, oh, I'm going to have to refer to my little black book. And he pulls out a little black book from his back pocket and he's like flipping through it frantically, trying to find this page. And he shows me a little diagram where he's written and kind of drawn out this pyramid. And he basically says that he's like police and military answer to the government, government answers to these people answer to the round table groups who answer to the Vatican and the black nobility. And he goes, and they answer to the demons, and the demons answer to the AI. He said the AI, and the AI was at the top, the tippy top of the pyramid, and everything is just following what the AI says. But I think that they're less taking orders from the AI and more it's like the AI is a parasite, you know, it takes over its host and becomes the thoughts and actions of the host.
That's what she calls it.
That's
parasite.
Yeah, totally.
For
Yeah,
sure.
so this is what some like super smart accomplished scientist guy told me off the cuff, and I was like, whoa, like I already kind of thought that, but it's kind of crazy to like hear that guy say it just like that.
Well, this is why these conversations are so cool, because we just corroborated two, two different people's stories. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, and a lot of people, have some information about this too, but it definitely makes you think, man. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, just looking at the code of nature, the ones and zeros, I mean, there's no doubt that this could be a simulation of
Inflation,
sorts.
oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah.
Well,
So
that's
if
what
we
I
could
was
just,
thinking.
Shit.
I was having a debate with someone online, which I need to stop doing, but he was
yeah,
saying, he was coming from a very Christian perspective, and that, God is a man, is flesh, right? Like, and and I was like, you know, in biblically, that doesn't make sense to me, right? Because then if God is a man, then why did God have to come as Jesus? Right? Like, but then I thought, if it is a simulation, God could be a man, right? Simulation could be just some dude with a computer that created some AI, and it, like, I mean, it's a crazy thought to think about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
regardless of how many different creators there are, like supposedly we have creators, right, that actually created us, and then there's the usurpers, the ones that are trying to convince us that we're their creation, and then there's the source or the all, right, the thing that created everything. And
Right.
if the same thing that created us also created this parasitic satanic AI, that means there's got to be like a purpose for it. Or maybe it's all just
Right.
like a grandiose experiment, like
Yeah.
giving humans free will. Like we'll give them free will, they can kill themselves or they can evolve. Like it's up to them. So it's almost like the source is like, I'm gonna create goodness and I'm gonna create darkness, and I'm just gonna let them duke it out
Yeah.
and see how it turns out. It's like the survival of the fittest, the best will survive kind of thing,
Right.
which I don't know.
We'll find out when our time comes and we get to the other side and we're like, wow, it's fucking crazy. All right, put me back in. I'm gonna
Yeah,
fight.
right?
Round
That's the
two, I
trick
gotta go
though.
in there.
That's the trick, is to not be fooled into coming back in over and over again, because there's a
Yeah.
million other places to go and a million other places to evolve into, and other things to experience. And I think that's the big shtick for at least Earth, right? For our deal on Earth is that we have this experience, and then we're tricked by, some call it the demiurge, by the overlord,
Mm-hmm.
into reincarnating over and over again, so that we're basically like batteries, right? Like the
Food
Matrix.
source.
We're
Yeah.
just we're human. We're batteries producing this energy that these other beings can harvest. And if they keep us on Earth, keep us coming back to jail, right? They keep us coming back to prison. We do our term, and then we're let out, and then we're like, no, I want to go back in. Like I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that, I didn't get to be a race car driver that lifetime. So like I'm hoping this time is going to be the one, right? And it's all those what Bob Monroe talks about is our earthly addictions. We're addicted to the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why we come here as souls, so we can live this experience that we can't live on the other planes. But um, like Bill Hicks says, it's just a ride.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. It's got ups and downs, and when it's done, you get off the ride. You don't have to go on over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. One thing I took from, being a huge Bob Monroe fan is, I think, the Cometian, the Egyptians, and other ancient cultures, they had a huge emphasis on the mind and death, controlling the mind. So when your time comes and you pass into the other side, you have that control over your mind where you can actually you can leave, or you can just operate in that purely mental state, or the etheric realms.
Mhm.
If you don't have that discipline and that control over your mind, soon as you get over into that type of realm, you could freak out and then reincarnate right again. It's just, like you said, keep repeating that cycle.
Yeah.
So, and that's why all the mystery traditions, it's huge mental work and controlling the mind and all the faucets through that. So, a lot to think about.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to bring up is you were talking about these companies and their scientists are all focused on opening up porthole, and they have like these super cold computers that are like, have you heard of those? What are those?
Oh,
Like
the D waves.
the D-Wave and Geordie Rose. Have you ever seen Geordie Rose talk?
Yeah, I think I know who that is.
Yeah, he's a D-Wave scientist, and he talks about it, and it's like, and like the logo, I think, for D-Wave, like it looks like it says demon. It's like there's a it's really weird because you're listening to him, you're like, what's this guy talking about? Like that is like a computer company or something, and they're like, we're gonna, it's like this high powered computing, and it's, I mean, yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's like maybe that's how God created everything, was through a computer.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't heard much about CERN. There was a big talk about CERN, a while ago, and what they were up to, and it's like all of a sudden they're just under the radar now.
Yeah.
That's another one to look at, is CERN, and how they do these weird dances out front, and they've
I
got
was
the
gonna say, isn't it CERN where their grand opening is like some big satanic ritual, like totally in your face and not trying to obscure it at all, like dancing.
and they have, who's the statue they have out front of, I think it's Shiva, the multi-armed Shiva. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's the destroyer, but she's the destroyer and the creator, though, right?
Right. Yep. That's how that works.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's been an interesting talk, huh? That's been a fun one.
Love it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm gonna definitely look into Serge Monost, and I'm gonna watch that movie Conspiracy Theory now. I think I've seen it, but
It's a funny movie. It's a good one. It's
yeah,
actually surprisingly accurate. I think in like the first minute or two of the movie, Mel Gibson just like rattles off a ton of conspiracies, and you're like, that's true. That's true too. It's
Yeah.
all about like MK Ultra, and it's a good movie. But
Awesome.
something interesting about Serge Monast that I have to mention is his death was kind of weird and mysterious. The story is like a little choppy. People have different accounts, but apparently he had his kids taken away from him because they claim that he was crazy. This is in Canada. He was based in Canada. He had his kids taken away from him, and then he did a night in jail. And the next day, he came home and dropped dead of a heart attack. It was like similar thing to Dr. Sebi, right? Spends a night in jail and then dies the next day.
yeah, they've got heart attack medicine, or they just like touch you with something. It's like,
Well, yeah,
heart attack guns. The CIA
I was about to
had
say.
like a deposition not too long, or maybe it was a while ago. I think it was like in the 80s or 90s, where they were saying that they have heart attack weapons that can cause you to have a heart attack from a distance.
Just like little mini directed energy weapons, just fire them right at you. Bam.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Something good to research. We were talking about NASA, and we were talking about how Bluebeam's not like an actual NASA project. If you search NASA war files, there's a website that will come up. I forget the name of the website, but NASA war files. There was supposedly some top guys that worked for NASA, and they dumped a bunch of documents all about NASA warfare strategy, future warfare strategy. I think the time frame is 2025 or something, and it's all about energy weapons and androids and biotechnology and nanobots. And
Is that part of the Iron Mountain documents?
I don't know if that came out with the Iron Mountain stuff.
Gotcha.
But,
And
it's stopthecrime.net. I'm not affiliated with this website. I don't even know much
that's
about
Deborah
it.
Tavares. She's
Yeah.
she lives in Santa Rosa. She does phenomenal work. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good site to check out for the viewers for sure.
Yeah. Ton of good stuff
She's
on
been
there.
around for a while too, man. She's been putting in a lot of work. She did the smart meters, and she's been her recent videos are phenomenal.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, she's got pretty good stuff. She's definitely a good one to check out for this type of topic. I remember one article they had some documents from PG&E,
Mm.
and they was some type of a satellite that had like a mirror, and so they could like reflect it off the sun, and they could do directed energy like that way. And in the document, the PG&E people were saying they were calling the humans earthlings.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But
If the
You'll wanna
people at
check out.
PG&E aren't earthlings,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So let's plug your website one more time. It is universaltruthprevails.com.
Yes, sir.
Good place to go for a bunch of information, a bunch of data.
I think there's a link on there too where people can contact me if they want to, if they have questions or whatever.
Sweet, man. Good
Awesome.
chat. I love these. Get my wheels turning, man. I'll be thinking about shit for like a week now.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of notes in front of me, and I'm like kind of scanning over right now. It's like I didn't touch like half the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Well,
Yeah, man.
that's
There's
why
so
we do
much happening, so
conspiracy
much
hearsay
direction.
part whatever. So this is
Yeah, right.
3. We'll see you on 4 or 5.
Yeah. We're gonna keep going on.
Part 22.
All right, Jason. Well, we'll
Definitely.
see you soon.
Right on, guys. Been a
We'll be-
pleasure.
We'll be seeing
Right
you this
on.
weekend, actually, huh?
Oh yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right, Will. You have a
Awesome.
good night.
You guys take care.
Well, and always remember, put something good in the air and plant something good in the earth. Peace.
Gia.